Hello, family. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also, share this video to your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The quiet after the storm was awkward at first. Mike stood at Mary's doorstep, hands in his pockets, voice unsure. "I'm not asking for the past," he said gently, "just a chance to build something now. For them, for us, if you'll let me." Mary looked at the twins playing by the window, their laughter a soft backdrop to the ache in her chest. "We can try," she said, her tone cautious but not cold. That evening, Mike stayed for dinner. He peeled apples for the boys, listening intently to their tales about school and imaginary dragon fights. Mary watched him from the kitchen, how he laughed softly when Daniel got his words twisted, how he rested a careful hand on Dean's back when he almost slipped off the stool. It was surreal yet tender. It wasn't love rekindled, not yet, but it was something new, timid, and alive. In the days that followed, Mike became a more frequent presence. Not intrusive, not forceful, just present. He picked the boys from school twice a week, always asking Mary if she was okay with it. Sometimes they all sat together and watched old animated movies, the boys on their laps, popcorn between them. One evening, as they walked the twins to the park, Mary glanced sideways and murmured, "You're different now, quieter." Mike gave a small smile. "Loss teaches silence," he said, "and silence teaches you to listen." Mary said nothing, but her hand brushed his when she reached to guide Dean across the grass. It was not romantic, it was hesitant, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. And for now, that was enough. Mike had never felt more nervous walking into a brightly decorated school hallway. Children's artwork lined the walls, and the scent of pencil shavings and crayons filled the air. He spotted Mary ahead, holding each boy's hand. When Dean saw him, he let go and ran toward Mike, hugging him tightly. "Daddy's here," he squealed. The word hung in the air like a new song. Mary didn't correct it. Instead, she smiled faintly and nodded toward the classroom. Inside, they sat through the twins' progress reports. The teacher, a warm woman with colorful bangles, spoke highly of the boys' creativity, then paused. "You're their father?" she asked. Mike nodded. "Yes, as of recently, I'm learning what I missed." The teacher smiled knowingly. "Then I'm glad you're catching up. They speak about you, well, the idea of you, with awe." After the meeting, they lingered on the playground. Daniel clung to the monkey bars, looking back every few seconds to see if Mike was watching. "I'm here," Mike called, his voice reassuring. Mary leaned against the fence beside him, arms crossed but not distant. "They're adjusting to you faster than I thought," she said quietly. Mike's eyes never left the boys. "I've missed 5 years. I won't miss another 5 minutes." Mary was silent. Then, almost in a whisper, she asked, "And what happens if you break their hearts?" Mike turned to face her, his jaw clenched, eyes soft but sure. "Then I'd never forgive myself." She stared at him, searching for doubt, but found only pain and resolve. It scared her how much she wanted to believe him. Anna sat on the edge of Mary's sofa, a steaming cup of hibiscus tea in her hand, eyes narrowed. "Have you noticed it?" she asked Mary, lowering her voice. "It's been too quiet," Mary blinked. "You mean the boys?" Anna shook her head. "No, Samantha, not a whisper. Not a message. Nothing since that night." Mary frowned, uncertain. "She's probably just embarrassed. Or ashamed." Anna scoffed. "People like Samantha don't disappear unless they're planning something. And knowing her, I doubt she's knitting sweaters in the countryside." Mike, who had just entered with a grocery bag, paused mid-step. "You think she's still involved?" he asked. Anna nodded grimly. "I think she's watching, waiting." Later that evening, Mike sat alone in his condo, Samantha's old desk still cleared but untouched. He opened his laptop and skimmed old emails, reviewing staff transitions and communications. The thought gnawed at him, how easily she had embedded herself into every part of his life. From PR to his calendar, Samantha had been the gatekeeper. And now, in her silence, he heard echoes of manipulation still breathing. He picked up his phone and texted Mary, "If you ever feel something's off, even the tiniest thing, tell me, please." She replied minutes later, "Same goes for you." As he stared at her message, a chill crept through his chest. He wasn't afraid of ghosts. He was afraid of the living ones that wore kindness as masks. The rain that evening was soft and persistent, tapping gently against the kitchen windows as Mary stirred a bowl of batter. The twins danced around her in their pajamas, giggling as Mike struggled to keep flour off his navy blue sweater. "You're worse than them," Mary chuckled, flicking a bit of dough onto Mike's cheek. He grinned, wiping it off with a paper towel and gently nudging her shoulder. "I'm just out of practice." The atmosphere was warm, gentle. For the first time in a long while, laughter filled the house with ease. After the cupcakes were in the oven, they sat together on the floor, backs resting against the cabinets, the boys between them licking spoons and talking about birthday themes. Mary glanced at Mike. It almost feels normal." He turned to her, voice low. "It can be, if we let it." She smiled faintly, but her eyes said more than her lips ever could. After the boys fell asleep in a frosting-fueled daze, Mary collected the toys from the living room floor. She reached for a blanket on the couch and accidentally knocked a thin leather album onto the floor. As she picked it up, a photograph slid free, an old university picture. Mike stood between two women, one arm around each. One of them was Samantha, unmistakable with her angular smile. The other, a woman with striking red lipstick and confident posture. Lydia. Her name was written on the back in Mike's handwriting. Mary stared at the image for a long time before sliding it back into the sleeve. She wasn't angry, just unsettled. Mike came in from the kitchen with 2 mugs of tea and stopped short when he saw her holding the album. "I forgot that was even there," he said, setting the mugs down. "You look happy," Mary said. Not accusing, not hurt, just quiet. "That was a different time," Mike replied, sitting beside her. "A different me. I didn't even know what love meant back then." Mary nodded slowly, her gaze falling back to the photo. Sometimes the past doesn't need to hurt, but it still leaves shadows. It was late morning when Mike's phone rang. The name on the screen made his stomach twist. Lydia. Her number was still saved, though unused for years. He stared for a beat before answering. "Lydia," he said cautiously. Her voice was upbeat, confident, as if no time had passed. "Hey, stranger. I heard about your recent shift in direction. Congratulations on reclaiming the Donovan brand." Mike's brows furrowed. "Thanks. Didn't expect to hear from you." She laughed. "I'm in Lagos for a few weeks. My team's handling rebranding for the Unilux merger. Thought we might align professionally. Your company has buzz, and I can help amplify it." Mike paused. "Let me think about it." She added quickly, "I'm not here to relive the past, just to do business. Unless you want more than that." The way she said it was layered. Mike ended the call politely but firmly. As he hung up, a strange feeling followed, a draft of cold air through a newly repaired window. Later that day, Mike found himself pacing his office, Lydia's voice still echoing in his ears. He didn't tell Mary. Not yet. There was nothing to tell, or so he convinced himself. Business was business. But something in the way Lydia had said, unless haunted him. He remembered her fondly, but not romantically. Back then, they had been 2 ambitious students trying to one-up each other in every presentation. Their relationship was built on rivalry and flirtation, not trust or depth. Still, there was no denying her allure or her strategic mind. She had always been good at getting what she wanted. Mike pulled out his laptop and searched her name. She was now a sought-after PR strategist featured in Forbes Africa with a reputation for saving crumbling empires. As he read through headlines and interviews, a new unease settled in. If Samantha had vanished this quietly, maybe this call wasn't a coincidence. Maybe the past wasn't calling, it was being sent. Mike sat across from Lydia in a sunlit cafe near the waterfront, the city's hum muted behind the thick windows. She wore a sleek ivory jumpsuit, her dark skin glowing against the soft morning light, her braided hair pulled into a crown that gave her the elegance of control. "This is purely professional," she said, sliding a file across the table. "I reviewed your brand's trajectory since the funeral. It's gaining sympathy traction. We can convert that into investor confidence." Mike glanced through the pages, graphs, mock headlines, strategy layouts. It was impressive. "You always did know how to make anything shine," he murmured. Lydia leaned forward, eyes searching. "So what do you say?" Mike tapped the folder twice before nodding. "Strictly business, no ambiguity." She smiled. Agreed, unless ambiguity wants to sneak in. Her voice dropped just enough to make the sentence linger. As they left the cafe, a camera flash popped from across the street, quick, subtle. Mike turned but saw nothing. Just a man in a hoodie walking away. He brushed it off. He wasn't famous enough to warrant attention. Or so he thought. Hours later, Samantha sat behind a borrowed laptop in a hidden co-working space, her fingers racing across the keyboard. She uploaded a series of time-stamped photos and drafted a blog post under a pseudonym. The headline read, "Old Flames or New Fire? Mike Donovan reunites with PR Queen Lydia at Lagos Marina." The second post scheduled to follow would frame it as a romantic rekindling. Samantha smiled darkly, eyes gleaming as she hit schedule. The pieces were now in motion. She didn't need to be present to pull strings. All she needed was a spark, and Lydia, knowingly or not, had just given her one. Mary was sitting on the edge of the couch, her laptop balanced on her knees as she reviewed a design portfolio for a client when her screen lit up with a new headline, "Donovan Empire and PR mogul spotted cozy at Lagos Marina." Her fingers hovered mid-keystroke. She stared at the picture embedded in the article, Mike seated across from a striking woman in an ivory jumpsuit. They weren't touching, but something about the way the woman leaned in, smiling with familiarity, made Mary's stomach drop. She scrolled. The article was vague, full of insinuation, nothing concrete, and yet doubt curled around her thoughts like smoke in a closed room. She shut the laptop slowly. The house was quiet. Dean and Daniel were napping after school, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she was losing her footing. The rebuilding was meant to be slow, mutual, sacred. Had she misjudged his sincerity? Or was this something older? Later that evening, Mike returned home with takeout, his usual way of compensating for long hours. "Hey," he said, placing the brown paper bags on the counter. "I got that jollof rice you like from the place near the roundabout." Mary didn't respond immediately. She simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. "You saw it," he said quietly. She nodded. "It popped up while I was working. I didn't go digging." Mike leaned on the counter, exhaling. "It wasn't what it looked like. She pitched a campaign. I said yes to the work." "Nothing else." Mary stood, arms crossed. "Do you know how it felt? Seeing her lean across the table like that? It felt personal, intimate." He approached carefully. "I didn't feel anything but strategy in that meeting. No emotion. I didn't even tell her where I live." Mary didn't push further, not yet. But she didn't eat much dinner that night either, and Mike noticed the silence more than the headline itself. The event hall was packed, glittering with glass chandeliers and flashes of camera lights as Mike entered with his assistant. It was a corporate launch, harmless, supposedly. Lydia had asked him to speak briefly on branding resilience, and he agreed because it aligned with their agreed partnership. He spotted her near the podium, already engaged in conversation with a few industry heads. When she saw him, she waved, her smile radiant, public, performative. They exchanged a brief handshake. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I told them you'd make a stronger impact than the governor." He chuckled. "Let's not overpromise." He delivered his short address and was stepping down from the platform when it happened. Lydia reached up and kissed his cheek, right at the bottom of the staircase, in full view of flashing cameras. His body stiffened. His expression went still. She pulled back smoothly, murmuring, "For luck." Within an hour, the image was everywhere. Zoomed in, cropped, captioned. The blogs ran wild. Donovan and Lydia rekindle. The kiss that might rewrite a legacy. Samantha, watching from behind a hotel suite desk lamp with a glass of wine in hand, whispered to herself, "Perfect timing." Mary saw it before Mike could call. She had just finished bathing the twins when her phone lit up again, this time. The same blog that broke the initial story ran the new headline with a gleaming high-res image of Lydia's lips brushing Mike's cheek. She stared at it, blinking slowly, then locked her screen. She didn't cry, not yet. Instead, she bundled the boys in their towels and silently wondered how much of her was being pulled back into that ache she had just begun to escape. Trust was like fine china, beautiful, fragile, and already cracked once before. Mary no longer responded immediately to Mike's messages. She no longer filled the silences with small talk or softened her stares when he looked uncertain. She went about her days with mechanical grace, getting the twins ready, taking client calls, folding laundry in rhythm. But there was a space between them now, invisible yet unmistakable. Mike noticed. Every time she turned her back just a little longer after hugging the boys goodnight, every time her voice sounded a notch more formal. He tried to talk. "Mary," he said one evening, catching her as she tucked a blanket around Daniel. "Please don't shut me out." She turned slowly. "I'm not shutting you out. I'm just protecting what's left." Her voice didn't shake, but her eyes did. Mike reached for her hand and she let him, but didn't hold back. He sat with her in the living room after the boys were asleep, trying to bridge the growing gap. She kissed me. I didn't expect it. I didn't return it. And I didn't want it. Mary exhaled slowly, rubbing her temples. That may be true. But now the world thinks otherwise. And I'm stuck explaining why I believed in you. He sat forward. Then let me fix it. I'll release a statement. I'll end the partnership. I'll do whatever, she cut in gently. No, don't do it because you feel guilty. Do it because it was never worth risking this. Her voice broke just slightly on the last word. Mike closed his eyes for a long moment. "You're right," he said quietly. "I don't want a redemption arc. I want a life with you and the boys, honestly, even if it takes me the rest of mine to earn back your peace." Mary didn't answer. But that night, she left her bedroom door unlocked. The next morning, Mike opened his office door only to be met with a flurry of staff members murmuring about that kiss. His executive assistant, nervous and flustered, handed him a printed tabloid headline, "The PR power couple we didn't see coming." His inbox was flooded with congratulatory notes, speculations, even campaign inquiries from brands eager to capitalize on the narrative. Mike rubbed his temples, already exhausted. "Kill it. Every last spin," he instructed. But the machine was in motion. His phone buzzed again. His mother had sent a link with a single text. Is this true? Even worse, the board had summoned him for a reputation alignment meeting. Samantha, watching from afar, tightened her robe and smiled darkly at the headlines, her trap unfolding just as planned. Meanwhile, Mary sat at the kitchen table, watching the twins eat cereal, while their cartoons played faintly in the background. The story was on TV, blurred photo, bold captions, and a clip of Mike exiting the press event, looking dazed. She muted it quickly, but not fast enough. Dean looked up, chewing slowly. "Mommy, is Daddy married again?" Her heart cracked in half. She swallowed. "No, baby. Sometimes pictures tell lies." Daniel tilted his head. "So Daddy's not kissing another lady?" She crouched beside them, steadying her voice. He wasn't kissing her. She kissed him. "That's different." They nodded but looked unconvinced. She ruffled their hair gently, her insides in chaos. Love wasn't meant to be this exhausting, yet here she was, wrestling with shadows she hadn't invited back into her peace. Mike picked up the boys from school the next afternoon. He'd insisted on it after Mary's voice cracked the night before when she said the twins had questions she couldn't fully answer. As the three of them sat in the car, windows cracked slightly, soft gospel music playing, Dean broke the silence. "Daddy, are you going to marry the shiny lady?" Mike nearly braked out of reflex. He glanced in the rearview mirror and saw two sets of wide, uncertain eyes. He turned the radio off and shifted in his seat. "No, Dean. I'm not marrying anyone but your mommy, if she'll still have me one day." Daniel leaned forward slightly. "But she kissed you. We saw it at school." Mike nodded solemnly. "She kissed me, yes, but I didn't want her to, and I didn't kiss her back." Silence hung, heavy but not angry. At home, Mike told Mary what happened. She sat on the arm of the couch, arms folded across her chest. "I don't want them thinking women can just stake claims on men with a camera flash." Mike exhaled. "Neither do I, but we're in it now." She looked at him carefully. "So what are you going to do?" He took a moment, then said, "I'll speak to them. But I want to do more than talk. I want to show them who I am, and who I choose, every single day." She didn't reply, but nodded slowly. That night, Mike told the boys a bedtime story, not from a book, but about a man who made mistakes, fought for the truth, and never gave up on his family. Dean fell asleep with his hand on Mike's shoulder. Daniel whispered, "You're our hero," before drifting off. For the first time since the scandal broke, Mike felt a tiny window of light. Mary stood on the balcony long after everyone had gone to bed. The city skyline shimmered in the distance, but her heart felt gray. She hadn't cried in days, not because she wasn't hurt, but because her tears felt like betrayals against the strength she was forcing herself to wear. The Lydia kiss had cracked her trust, but it was the world's embrace of it that truly bruised her. She could have fought the media. She could have told her side, but she was tired of fighting for people to know her place in Mike's life when he hadn't clearly drawn the line himself. She remembered the way he froze in the photo, startled, not complicit. But still, the damage had been done. Her heart beat with grief she couldn't articulate, and the ache pooled in her chest like a wound without bleeding. Mike joined her quietly. He didn't speak, just handed her a mug of warm tea. She took it, fingers grazing his, and finally broke the silence. "You said we'd go slow," she murmured, staring ahead. "You didn't say you'd go backwards." He swallowed hard. "I never meant to go anywhere but forward with you. But I didn't see the trap." She looked at him now, eyes full of longing and exhaustion. "I want to believe you, but trust isn't a light switch. It's a dimmer, flickering, and cautious." Mike sat beside her. "Then let me stay long enough to watch it brighten again." A long silence passed. Then, very softly, she said, "I'm scared. Not just of losing you, but of losing myself again." He reached out and took her hand, not as a plea, but as a promise. "Then let's walk this fear together." Lydia requested a final in-person meeting at her hotel lounge, a neutral space, away from cameras and speculation. Mike hesitated but agreed, not because he owed her closure, but because the narrative needed clarity. She arrived early, wearing a soft maroon dress, her makeup understated, but her expression intense. "I need to say something without interruption," she began. "I thought this PR campaign would be professional, but every meeting stirred things I buried. You were my first real love, Mike." He looked at her with a calm that held no spark. "I was younger then, naive, and maybe so were you." She nodded, blinking faster. "I just thought, when you walked into that conference room again, maybe fate was rewriting us." Mike sighed. "Fate doesn't rewrite what we've already buried. It just clears space for the truth." Her face crumpled slightly, but she didn't cry. "Then answer me this," she whispered. "If Samantha hadn't pushed this, if the kiss never happened, do you think Mary would have trusted you fully again?" Mike didn't flinch. "Yes, because I never stopped earning it." Lydia nodded slowly, pushing back her chair. "Then I'll step away, but don't assume I knew I was being used. Samantha promised me things: power, brand elevation, joint ventures. She used my history with you to crack your foundation." She stood and handed Mike a file folder. "You'll want to see this. It's proof I didn't start this chaos, but I sure let myself get pulled into it." He opened the folder as she walked away, her heels tapping like a closing chapter. Inside were transcripts, calls, chats, and a PR memo linking the entire narrative arc to a SG Asset Branding Ltd subsidiary. It was Samantha. Again. Anna sat in her car, laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. The name SG Asset Branding Ltd hadn't come up in her initial searches, but once she tied it to Samantha Gray's old corporate registration numbers, the pieces clicked. The company had been dormant for over a year, until the same week Lydia's PR pitch was submitted to Mike's office. Digging deeper, Anna discovered two burner social accounts that led news blogs and celebrity gossip pages to the Lydia-Mike speculation. The accounts were all registered to the same masked IP address. One pinged from Kenya, another from Ghana, classic redirection. But when she used a cybersecurity tool to track patterns, one dormant account showed an upload from a local cafe just 2 blocks from Samantha's old apartment. "Got you," Anna whispered to herself. Later that evening, she barged into Mary's home, eyes blazing. "You need to see something." Mary, startled but trusting, invited her in. They sat in the living room while Anna explained the digital trail she had followed. This wasn't just jealousy or some romantic sabotage. Samantha built a shell company, a web of ghost influencers, and coordinated everything from press releases to comment section wars. She wanted to isolate Mike, then swoop in like the only loyal one left. Mary leaned forward, clutching the printouts. Why? What did she think she'd gain? Anna answered bluntly. You, out of the picture. The boys, eventually hers to raise with him. And Mike too buried in guilt to ever resist. Mary's voice wavered. She's still pulling strings. I can feel it. Anna looked her dead in the eye. Then it's time we cut the strings. Clean. The next morning, Mike received a text from an unknown number. It was a video clip, grainy, muted, but unmistakably Samantha's voice. "They're almost there. Push harder," she whispered, speaking to someone off-screen. The camera cut to a blurred image of Lydia entering what looked like a warehouse office. Below the video was a timestamp, 3 days ago. Mike's hands clenched around the phone. She wasn't gone. She was orchestrating from the shadows. He forwarded the clip to Anna and Mary immediately. "She's not finished. She's circling," he wrote. Anna called within minutes. "I can trace the upload server." This was posted using a VPN, but it cracked once, meaning she's still local. In that video, that's bait. She wants to remind you she's watching. Later that evening, Mike stood in the boys' room as they slept. Mary joined him silently. "You saw it?" he asked. She nodded. "She's playing a long game." Mike's jaw tightened. "But we're not pawns anymore." Mary looked at him for a long beat. "I don't want her shadow in this house anymore." He turned to her. "Then let's bring everything she's done into the light. With proof." Mary hesitated before placing a hand over his. "Just don't let her drag you where she lives below integrity." He squeezed her hand. "Never again." Across the city, Samantha watched her screen flicker, her lips curled in a satisfied smirk. "Let them think they're close," she whispered to herself. "They've barely scratched the surface." Mary didn't plan the meeting with Lydia, but fate, again, chose otherwise. They crossed paths at a local bookstore, both reaching for the same parenting memoir. Their eyes locked, Lydia's surprised, Mary's unreadable. Lydia was the first to speak, her voice quiet. "I never meant for it to become personal," she said. Mary didn't respond immediately. She studied Lydia's face, no glamour this time, just fatigue. "Why didn't you stop the press when it spiraled?" Mary finally asked. Lydia bit her lip. "I was told it would be handled, that if I kept playing along, the truth would tilt in my favor." Mary raised a brow. "Told by who?" Silence. Lydia hesitated, then whispered, "I was contacted anonymously, but I recognized the language. It was her. Samantha." Mary's expression didn't change, but inside, a storm churned. They moved to a nearby cafe, where Mary leaned in, her tone sharp but composed. "What exactly did she promise you?" Lydia's eyes darted. "She said Mike still loved me, he just didn't know it yet. She offered me full PR control of Donovan and Co.'s new division if I helped create the narrative." Mary stared, disbelief swirling with disgust. "You agreed to rewrite someone's life for a promotion?" Lydia looked away. "I thought I was reclaiming something. But after that kiss, I saw it in his eyes. He didn't see me anymore. Not like before." Mary's voice dropped to a whisper. "He sees me. Because I stayed when no one else did." Lydia gave a sad smile. "Then he's luckier than he knows." As Mary rose to leave, Lydia touched her hand. "I was a fool, but I was never your enemy. Just another one of her pawns." Mary nodded, her heart heavier but her purpose clearer. She would no longer let Samantha twist shadows into truth. Mike spent weeks planning the perfect birthday celebration for Dean and Daniel. He rented a vibrant garden venue with bouncing castles, storytelling corners, and twin-themed cupcakes with little blue stars. Guests gathered, unaware of the storm that loomed beyond the balloons. Mary arrived with the boys, both dressed in matching suspenders and boaties, their excitement lighting up the space. As they ran off to play, Mike approached Mary slowly. "Thank you for letting me do this," he said, his voice low. Mary nodded. "They deserve joy. And you've earned today." For the first time in weeks, her tone held no hesitation, just honesty. The atmosphere was warm until a courier approached the gift table, leaving behind a glossy, ribbon-tied package with no return label. Anna, who had offered to help with logistics, noticed it immediately. She picked it up, frowning. "This wasn't on our list." Inside was a porcelain music box. When opened, it played a haunting lullaby, one Mary used to hum to the twins as infants. Attached was a note, "Happy birthday to what could have been our family." Mary's hands trembled as she read it. Mike took the note silently, jaw clenched. "She won't stop," he said through gritted teeth. Anna scanned the box for hidden devices. "It's clean, but the message is clear. She's watching, and she wants us to know it." Mary looked toward the boys laughing in the distance. This day is about them. She's had too many chapters already. Let's not let her write this one. Mike nodded. Then we fight for them quietly, but completely. The next day, Daniel came home from school unusually quiet. He dropped his backpack by the door and went straight to his room, curling up on the bed without a word. Mary followed him, concern knitting her brow. "Danny, what's wrong?" she asked gently. His voice cracked. "Some kids said Daddy has another family now, with a new lady. They said we'll be left behind soon." Mary's heart broke at the weight of his words. She sat beside him, pulling him into her arms. "That's not true, baby. Daddy loves you and Dean more than anything, and I'm not going anywhere either." Mike arrived moments later, sensing the shift. When he entered Daniel's room and saw his son's teary eyes, his heart sank. "Hey, champ, talk to me," he said, kneeling down. Daniel looked up, face streaked. "Are you getting a new mommy for us?" Mike's throat tightened. He reached out, brushing Daniel's curls. "Never. You and Dean, you're my beginning. I messed up, but I'm not leaving. And there is no new mommy. Only one woman has my heart, and it's the same one who carried you here." Daniel sniffled. "Even when the bad pictures come?" Mike nodded. "Even when the whole world misunderstands, the truth will always find us." Mary stood at the doorway, hand pressed over her mouth, eyes glistening. The pain Samantha tried to plant was real, but so was the love rising in its place. Anna was already feeling on edge when the package arrived at her doorstep without a name or stamp, just a plain brown envelope tucked under the mat. She opened it slowly, wary. Inside were printed screenshots, each one clearer than the last. Her eyes widened as she scanned the messages. Samantha, using a company-registered alias, had been communicating with an IT assistant about orchestrating a visual narrative for the media. One exchange even referenced Lydia's invitation as part of the alignment strategy. Anna's hands trembled. She didn't want to believe that someone so calculated had been manipulating not just Mary and Mike, but the entire perception of their connection. "This changes everything," she whispered, clutching the documents to her chest. That evening she called Mary. "I need to see you. Alone. It's about Samantha." Mary arrived at Anna's with tension straining her posture, her fingers fidgeting as she stepped inside. "What's this about?" she asked quietly, clearly trying to brace herself for more heartbreak. Anna handed her the envelope without a word. Mary sat down slowly, flipping through the pages. Her breath caught at the part where Lydia's involvement was labeled Phase 2. She blinked hard as the weight of it all bore down on her. "So, she planned every piece of this," Mary said, her voice cracking. "Every doubt I've had about Mike was engineered." Anna knelt in front of her, gripping her hands. "You had every right to question. But now we know Samantha's still here, still pulling strings." Mary's heart ached not from anger this time, but exhaustion. "I wanted a reason to believe again," she whispered. "Maybe this is it." Later that night, Mary stood at her kitchen window, staring into the darkness, her mind heavy with everything she had just learned. The boys were asleep and the house was still, but her heart beat loudly in her ears. When Mike knocked on the door, she didn't hesitate. He stepped in, eyes searching hers, sensing the shift in her aura. She handed him the envelope wordlessly. As he read the screenshots, his face moved from confusion to heartbreak to clarity. "I should have known Samantha wasn't done," he muttered. Mary walked to the dining table and sat. "If I told you I believed you again, fully, what would you do differently?" she asked, her voice low but steady. Mike walked over and sat across from her. He didn't flinch. "I'd never let you carry questions alone again," he said firmly. "I'd make sure the truth always finds you first. Not the lies, not the noise." Mary looked at him, tears rising. "I was scared that loving you again would come with more betrayal." Mike shook his head, leaning forward. "If I have to rebuild your trust brick by brick, I'll do it. No shortcuts, no expectations, just time and truth." Mary's lips trembled. "I'm not ready to say everything's okay," she said. "You don't have to," he replied softly. "I'll still be here tomorrow. And the day after." In that moment, she didn't say a word. But she didn't ask him to leave either. The next morning, Mike met Lydia at a quiet coffee shop near the city center. She looked polished, but her eyes gave away a weariness she hadn't worn before. "Thank you for coming," she began, her voice tentative. Mike nodded and slid the printed screenshots across the table. Lydia skimmed them, and the color drained from her face. I had no idea, she murmured. Samantha told me you still had feelings for me, that this campaign would be our way back. I didn't want to believe it, but she was convincing. Mike listened patiently before he spoke. You were a friend once, and I don't want this to be war. But I need to end all confusion for Mary, for the twins. Lydia blinked away a tear, setting the papers aside. I thought I was part of something honest. I feel used. Mike gave a slow nod. You were, but we can stop being pawns now. He extended a hand. End the campaign. Walk away clean. Lydia took his hand, reluctant but resigned. I will, she whispered. I just hope she doesn't come for me next. As Mike left the cafe, the sky opened slightly, letting a stream of sunlight through the gray. It felt like a sign, not of resolution, but of direction. There was still damage to repair, but at least now the shadows had names. And the lies? They had a paper trail. Mike drove straight to Mary's house. There was more to show her, more to say. And this time, he'd say it all before she had to ask. Anna sat in her home office, eyes narrowed, her fingers rapidly tapping on her laptop keys. She had spent the past 48 hours tracing metadata from the leaked photos and cross-checking IPs from company servers. She was close. The final breakthrough came when she accessed a cloud-based registry that Samantha had used years ago for a now-dissolved startup. A shell company, Nuvox Creatives, was still active under a pseudonym that linked back to an encrypted email tied to her old company device. The burner accounts that had anonymously posted damaging gossip about Mike and Lydia were all traced back to the same Nuvox server. Anna leaned back, heart racing. It wasn't just a petty grudge anymore. Samantha had orchestrated a media smear operation that was vast, quiet, and criminally invasive. She printed out the logs, timestamps, and connection points, stacking them into a file labeled Truth Chain. She took a breath, then called Mike. I have something. You need to come now. Mike arrived 30 minutes later, the tension in his face deeper than before. Anna handed him the file and walked him through every single connection, flipping through pages like a trial lawyer presenting damning evidence. She used a data tunnel in your own company's email server to route her communications, Anna explained. She never left. She just went underground. Mike's jaw clenched. She sabotaged every chance I had with Mary, and I let her do it. Anna placed a firm hand on his shoulder. You didn't know, but now you do. And that means we fight back, not react. He nodded slowly, his voice rough. We bring this into the light. Anna gave a small, proud smile. And we'll do it in a way Samantha never prepared for. That night, Mike drafted a legal package. He was done reacting. Now it was Samantha's turn to answer for what she broke. The plan was deceptively simple. Offer bait she couldn't resist. With Anna and Lydia's help, Mike drafted a confidential business proposal from a dummy consultancy offering Samantha exclusive PR rights to a multi-million naira expansion campaign. The document looked genuine, complete with fake corporate backers and a false timeline, one that would pressure her into acting fast. Lydia played her part, emailing the proposal to a public address Samantha had once used under the alias Kemi Aluko. They waited. 3 days later, Mike's company inbox received a reply, Samantha's voice thinly veiled behind the alias, excited, eager, and inquisitive. This smells real, Lydia said, raising a brow as she read the response. She's biting. Mike had a tech team trace the email's digital signature. It pinged a device location in Ilupaju, Lagos, in a serviced apartment. Anna smirked. She's local. She's hiding, but she's close. His second reply arrived within hours, requesting a private meeting and NDA to avoid press interception. Mike nodded. Let her think she's in control. They scheduled a fake Zoom call, set for 11 a.m. Saturday. Mike dressed in a plain polo, no company logos, and positioned the camera at a sterile office backdrop. When Samantha joined, her screen was off at first. Then it blinked on. Her hair was in a low bun, no makeup, glasses, almost unrecognizable from her usual corporate elegance. Mr. Donovan, she said, her voice even. I'm interested, but I need to ensure this offer isn't another Lydia stunt. Mike kept his tone calm. We're looking for someone who knows how to spin a narrative. Her smile was cold. That I do very well. Behind Mike, Anna recorded the session from a secondary system. The trap wasn't just closing, it was catching everything she said. Later that evening, Anna got a lucky break. The same IP Samantha used for the Zoom call pinged again, this time logging into a VoIP account. Using surveillance software with a digital warrant Mike's legal team had fast-tracked, they intercepted the outgoing call Samantha made to someone named Becky. The recording began with laughter. Then Samantha's voice slid into something sinister. They fell for it, every bit, the kiss, the captions, the whispers about Lydia. All mine. She was just my cover to keep Mary off balance. He was always going to come back to me. I just needed time. The call got darker. Mary was never built for him. She's too cautious, too meek. He needs someone sharp, strategic. Like me. I just had to sabotage her soft little comeback. Anna froze, playing the clip back twice to be sure. Every line, every word. It was all there, undeniable, unedited. Samantha had openly admitted orchestrating the media photos, manipulating Lydia, and emotionally cornering Mary. The last thing she said chilled Anna. They think this is about love. It's about winning. I always win. She sent the audio to Mike immediately. They played it that night at Mary's house. She sat still as the voice rang out, her fingers slowly curling around the hem of her blouse. When it ended, Mike looked at her with pain in his eyes. "This is what we've been fighting," he whispered. "I wasn't lying. I just didn't know how deep her claws ran." Mary's eyes were glossy, her throat tight. "I didn't want proof," she said softly. "I just wanted peace." Then, as her voice steadied, she added, "But this gives me strength." In that moment, the gap between them didn't vanish, but it narrowed. And this time, Mary didn't walk away. Mike didn't rush her. He sat beside Mary in the quiet of her living room, the boys already asleep in the next room. The tension between them wasn't hostile. It was heavy with unspoken emotions. With trembling fingers, Mike opened the file on his phone and played the audio Anna had forwarded earlier. Samantha's voice came through, sharp and cold. She was never meant to stay. "He would have chosen me eventually," she'd said, her tone dripping with bitter entitlement. As the recording played, Mary's eyes remained fixed on the coffee mug in her hands, unmoving. Her breath caught at certain phrases, and her grip on the cup tightened, but she said nothing until it ended. Silence settled between them like fog. You let me hear it," she finally whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You didn't try to defend yourself. You let her condemn herself." Mike's voice cracked as he responded, "Because I wanted you to know the truth from the only person who can't lie about it anymore." Mary nodded, her lips trembling. "I wanted to believe in you, Mike. I just didn't know how to without proof." The pain in her expression was deeper than betrayal. It was rooted in the fear of being made a fool again, of giving her heart only to have it crushed. Mike reached over, gently placing his hand on hers, not pushing, just offering. "You said if I gave you truth, you'd believe me again," he said softly. "This is everything, raw and unfiltered. No edits." Mary turned to face him, fully eyes brimming. "She framed you, lied to me, lied to Lydia, manipulated everything, and I almost let her win." Her voice broke. "The worst part is, I started to believe I was too broken to ever trust again." Mike shook his head. "You're not broken, Mary. You've just been too strong for too long." That pulled a sob from her chest, and she leaned into him, letting his arms wrap around her. For the first time since the funeral, she didn't resist his closeness. She allowed herself to rest in his presence, not because all the pain had vanished, but because truth, finally, had a voice loud enough to silence the doubt. The next morning, Anna and Mike began coordinating with the legal team to prepare charges against Samantha. The audio recording, the manipulated photos, the IP address linked to the fake PR firm, it was enough to press charges for defamation, fraud, and corporate sabotage. But when they arrived at Samantha's apartment, they found the door wide open, the rooms eerily empty. Her belongings were gone, closet cleared out, drawers vacant, her laptop missing. The only thing left behind was a single white envelope addressed to Mike. Inside was a handwritten note on company letterhead that read, "You think this ends here? You think she'll keep choosing you now that she knows what I've done? I gave you everything, and you gave it all to her. Enjoy your hollow victory. This isn't over." Mike's hands clenched around the letter, his jaw locked. Anna looked over his shoulder, her voice low but firm. "She's not coming back for redemption. She's coming back for revenge." A shiver ran down Mike's spine, not because he was afraid, but because he now understood the full scope of Samantha's obsession. This wasn't love. It never had been. Back at Mary's home, she watched Mike process the message, her own fear restrained behind a calm exterior. "She's gone," he told her, "vanished without a trace. Left that note behind." Mary took it from him and read the words silently. Then she folded it neatly and placed it back in the envelope. "We can't live waiting for her to come back," she said. "We've already wasted enough time looking over our shoulders." Mike looked at her with admiration. "You're not scared?" She shook her head slowly. "I'm exhausted. There's a difference." They sat on the porch together that evening, side by side as the twins played in the yard. The sunset cast long shadows over the grass, but for once it didn't feel ominous. It felt like closure. Mary reached for his hand. "We can't let her win by being afraid. She stole enough from us. Our future is not hers to write." Mike gripped her hand tightly, nodding. "Then we write our own ending, slowly, carefully, together." And they sat in silence, each holding space for what was broken and what still could be whole. Mike was the one who suggested they start couples therapy, not as a means of repair, but as a way to rebuild something real from the ashes. Mary hesitated at first, unsure if their problems were something a therapist could untangle. "This isn't a broken bone," she had said. "It's a broken history." But he looked at her and replied gently, "And even history can be rewritten if we're brave enough." Their first session was awkward. They sat apart on the couch, talking more to the therapist than to each other. But over time, the words began to flow about grief, betrayal, guilt, and the boys. Mike admitted to feeling like he had missed the best parts of their sons' early lives. Mary confessed that there were nights she had resented him for being the father they couldn't afford to need. These weren't easy truths, but they were honest, and honesty, for the first time in years, felt like healing. Outside the sessions, Mike made quiet efforts. He drove the twins to school, helped Mary around the house, and left small sticky notes on the fridge with phrases like, "You're doing amazing," and "Thank you for trusting me again." One evening, Mary came into the kitchen to find Daniel perched on the stool, pencil in hand, drawing furiously. Dean stood beside him, watching with wide eyes. "We're making our family," Dean announced proudly. "See? Mommy, Daddy, us." On the paper was a crayon portrait, 2 adults and 2 children, holding hands under a sun with a crooked smile. Mike was drawn with blue eyes, big shoes, and his signature watch. Mary's curls had been given pink highlights. "He even gave you makeup," she laughed, her heart full. They pinned the drawing on the fridge beside an older one where Mike hadn't been included. "That one can stay," Mary said quietly, "to remind us where we started." Later that night, Mike asked her, "Do you think one day they'll forget we were ever apart?" Mary looked at the drawing again and replied, "They might forget, but I won't, because what we have now, we earned it." And for the first time, she didn't mean it with bitterness. She meant it with grace. It was a Wednesday afternoon when Mary received a message from Dean's class teacher. "You might want to come early for pickup today. Dean's presentation is something special." Curious, Mary arrived with Mike, both walking hand in hand for the first time on school grounds. In the brightly decorated classroom, parents were gathered around child-sized chairs while the children stood beside their projects. When Dean's turn came, he pointed proudly to his large poster board titled, "My Family is My Superpower." The drawing showed stick figures, Mom, Dad, Dean, and Daniel, with glitter halos over their heads. Underneath, he'd written in crooked letters, "My dad is strong. My mom is smart, my brother is my hero, and I'm the lucky one because I have all of them." The room fell silent, and a few parents discreetly wiped their eyes. Mike's lips parted, overwhelmed. He looked at Mary, who could barely contain the tears welling in her eyes. "He never asked me if he could call me Dad in public," Mike whispered. "He didn't need to," Mary said, voice trembling. "He knows who you are now." After the presentation, Dean ran into Mike's arms and held on tighter than he ever had before. Daniel followed with his own drawing folded in half, shyly handing it to Mary. "That's you and Daddy dancing," he said softly. The crayon sketch showed 2 people swaying under a moon, the kids peeking from behind a curtain. Mike chuckled, remembering the night he clumsily danced with Mary in the living room while baking cookies. They were building new memories, and the boys were watching, quietly archiving every soft moment into their hearts. On the way home, Mike glanced in the rearview mirror at the boys sleeping side by side, their heads touching. "I used to think rebuilding with you would take time," he said to Mary. "But maybe it's not just about time, it's about presence. Showing up again and again." Mary nodded. "They don't need us to be perfect. They need us to be real." That evening, they pinned both boys' drawings beside the one from therapy on the fridge. In this time, there was no gap in the family portrait, just four souls rediscovering what it meant to truly belong. The day had a quiet kind of magic, one of those moments when everything in life feels paused, gently breathing instead of rushing. Mike had asked Mary to go on a walk with him just after the boys went to bed. No grand gestures. Just the two of them, under the faint orange haze of streetlights, strolling slowly through the neighborhood, where laughter from unseen homes floated softly in the air. They walked in silence at first, but it wasn't the uncomfortable kind. It was full, sacred, reflective. Then, Mike stopped beneath a tree blooming with late flowers and pulled a small box from his coat pocket. "Before you panic," he said with a teasing smile, "I'm not proposing. I just want to ask a different kind of question." Mary stared at the box in his palm, her breath catching. He opened it, not to reveal a ring, but a delicate gold bracelet etched with four initials, MMD and D. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said, his voice steady. "I'm asking if I can keep walking beside you every step of this next chapter until maybe one day you're ready to say yes again." Mary didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached out and ran her finger gently over the initials. "There was a time when I believed promises were just rehearsed lies," she whispered. "But you stopped promising and started proving. That's how I learned to believe again." She fastened the bracelet on her wrist and looked up at him, eyes glossy but smiling. "I'm not saying yes today, Mike, but I'm not saying no either. I'm saying I'm still here. I'm still willing." He exhaled deeply, more relieved than disappointed. "That's all I ever wanted," he said. "For us to keep choosing each other, even when it's hard." As they continued walking, their fingers naturally found each other's, and neither let go. Around them, the world didn't change, but their world did. One soft breath, one brave word, one step at a time. In the quiet stretch between what was and what could be, they wrote a vow no ceremony could hold. To rebuild with grace, to choose with clarity, and to love, slowly but without fear. The porch was warm that evening, painted in hues of a dying sun that draped golden streaks over the lawn. The twins sat cross-legged on the steps, sharing a tub of mango slices and giggling as they fought over who got the last piece. Mary sat on the porch swing, the bracelet on her wrist catching the light. Mike joined her, holding 2 mugs of steaming ginger tea. He handed one to her without a word, their fingers brushing. This right here feels like peace," she said softly. "Not perfect, but peace." Mike leaned back, the creak of the swing matching the slow sway of his thoughts. "I used to think success was found in boardrooms and deals," he said. "But I've never felt more accomplished than I do right now, on this porch with you and the boys." Mary smiled faintly. "You've changed, Mike." He nodded. "You taught me how, or maybe. You reminded me who I was always meant to be." Daniel climbed onto Mike's lap, nestling close, while Dean curled beside Mary. They watched the sky turn violet. No one rushed. No one interrupted the stillness. "Do you think we'll ever be what we used to be?" Daniel asked suddenly. Mike kissed the top of his head. "I hope not," he said. "I hope we become something even better." Mary looked out into the evening, her heart no longer shackled by the past, but quietly leaning into the promise of the future. "This time," she said almost to herself, "we take every step together." Mike reached for her hand, and she didn't hesitate. The world around them was still uncertain, shadows still lurked, and old scars hadn't vanished. But here in the fading light, love didn't need to be loud or rushed, it just needed to be real. And that, finally, was enough. Here's the Bible verse. Isaiah 43, verses 18 and 19, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." Why this verse? Chapters 31, 60 center on healing from betrayal, the hard work of rebuilding trust, and the slow unfolding of emotional restoration. This verse mirrors Mike and Mary's journey, from past wounds and manipulation to the surprising new thing God births in their relationship and family. It reminds readers that even in what feels barren, God can restore, reroot, and resurrect love. Moral of the story: true love doesn't rush to rebuild. It proves itself in patience, truth, and persistence. While lies may spark chaos, only honesty sustains peace. And when both hearts choose each other again, not out of memory, but out of renewed conviction, healing begins where hurt once lived. This moral captures the emotional heart of the final chapters, where Mike earns Mary's trust not with grand gestures, but through humble consistency. It also reflects how Mary learns to open her heart again, not because she forgot the pain, but because she chose to believe in growth, truth, and love rebuilt from the ground up. That's the end of the story. What did you learn from this story? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Leave a like and don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notification so that you'll be notified whenever we drop our next videos. Also, share this video to someone who might be interested. Thank you so much for watching.